Michio Kaku.
Hello.
Hi. How are you, sir? We saw you on TV last night talking about the oil spill, and we certainly wanted to get your take on our show as well, considering you're a friend of the show.
Yes. Now, using a nuclear device, how viable is this?
It's not a good suggestion at all. First of all, it'll make the area radioactive. It'll release radioactive iodine, cesium, strontium, which will contaminate the area for decades, if not centuries, depending upon the flow of ocean currents. And during hurricane season, you can imagine that tar balls will be shot into the air that are radioactive.
Radioactive tar.
Yeah, can you imagine radioactive tar balls winding up in people's swimming pools?
It sounds like a horror movie, Dr. Kaku.
It sure does. Now, with these hurricanes, we're going to have tar balls flying around?
Yeah, hurricanes will actually grab water several hundred feet below the surface and loft it up into the sky. If a hurricane comes into the Gulf from the western direction, they spin counterclockwise. So if it's west of the oil leak, the counterclockwise motion will then take this water laden with oil, loft it into the air, and dump it all over the south.
Wow. How far inland could that actually take tar and oil?
Oh, potentially hundreds of miles inland.
Hundreds of miles. So people on the coast that are worrying and people inland that are saying we have nothing to worry about might actually have something to worry about.
That's right. They could have radioactive oil raining down on their hair, on their barbecue pits, on their rooftops. It's going to be a mess. Think of all the lawsuits coming out of this thing.
Dr. Michio Kaku, what do you think about this whole thing? Now, I know we've heard your point on this 2012 end of the world kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of man-made and natural disasters happening lately. I know you're a man of science, but spiritually, how are you feeling about this?
Well, look at Mother Earth, okay? She rocks the planet almost like every month with a gigantic magnitude 7, even magnitude 8 earthquake, but they happen underwater. They happen away from the television cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So Mother Earth gets rocked all the time, but we never really notice these things. Only when we get rocked. So we are so arrogant. We're so arrogant that we think that when our little domain is rocked, then it means, oh my God, Chicken Little. We think that the whole world is falling apart.
Dr. Kaku,
great point.
Another thing I want to ask that I've been very curious about: how come a natural disaster has never caused a fissure in the earth that has leaked oil into the ocean?
Well, they have. I mean, in the sense that we've had a blowout like this before, but they usually happen at 200 feet.
I mean, like an earthquake. Let's say an earthquake happened, and a couple of plates move and lets out some oil from a deposit that maybe hasn't even been drilled, and all of a sudden you're seeing oil spurting up into the Gulf or anywhere else where there might have been this earthquake. How come that's never happened? We haven't seen that.
The reason is the deposits of oil are actually pretty rare. You don't find them everywhere at all. Only a tiny, tiny fraction of the Earth's surface actually has large deposits of, commercially viable oil. And if you then superimpose upon that the fault lines, you find that the fault lines and the oil deposits usually don't match. So we're in a situation where we think there's oil everywhere, but actually if you're a shale oil engineer, you know that it's only a tiny fraction of the Earth's surface has large oil deposits, and they happen not to be where there's lots of seismic activity. Thank goodness. Otherwise, we would have this.
Yes, that would be oil all over the place.
You forgot to ask about the fire cane. What's the possibility? You get a hurricane, it scoops up the oil, then you get a little, lightning strike, and next thing you know, you got a hurricane that's on fire. Is this possible?
Well, a little bit unlikely in the sense that the oil is an oil-water mixture called an emulsion. Some people think that, oil separates from water, in which case you should be able to burn off the oil. Well, that's partially true. But how can we have so many plumes of water going down 22 miles that are 22 miles long? Why is that? Because water and oil do mix sometimes, creating what is called an emulsion. Look at mayonnaise. Look at lotion. Look at your kitchen.
This fucking guy is smart as shit. Fuck! You motherfucker! Man, go on Jeopardy, nigga. What you doing?
Patrice,
Jesus Christ!
This is Dr. Michio Kaku.
He's a physicist.
Oh,
fucking
please,
guy is
Doctor,
phenomenal.
Dr. Kaku, I want to apologize for Patrice O'Neal's language.
Yes,
it gets a little
This shit's
salty.
prodigious as hell, motherfucker.
It gets a little salty with his language.
He's a comedian. We don't really know much about him. He's playing in the area. He came in to do a set, and I didn't know he was going to use that language,
yes,
sir.
You've really impressed him, and that's how he shows his that he is indeed impressed with you. We apologize for the language.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, sir. Please. Sorry.
So it is an emulsion
like mayonnaise. All right.
that will not just burn randomly with maybe a lightning strike.
That's right. And also, by the way, the nuke option that I talked about on the Keith Olbermann show last night
Yes.
is also not a good idea, because what happens if you detonate a hydrogen bomb underground, okay, what happens is you create an underground sphere, a sphere of vaporized dirt, a hollow sphere. The sides, the walls of the sphere get glassified.
Right.
Sand. So you have this glassified hollow sphere underneath the ground, which then eventually collapses, giving you a gigantic hole. Now, the people who want to nuke the oil well think that the oil well will be glassified and therefore sealed up. But the walls are unstable. Eventually, the pressure, 2,000 pounds per square inch on the bottom of the ocean, will cause a cave-in, and then more oil will spill out potentially and create even more places where oil can seep into the environment.
But what do you think about? Are they?
Fire. Big time.
Are they going to get it cleaned up, or is the oil just going to keep spilling out like a whole bunch of Crisco or something?
Well, let's hope that the capping procedure, which they're doing right now, even as we speak, let's hope it works. However, a month ago it failed because of methane crystals that got into the siphon and jammed it. So now they're putting hot water down the pipe, and we're waiting and seeing. We're waiting and seeing whether or not the hot water will dissolve the methane crystals so that they can siphon off some of this water. Now, it's not a plug. It's a very loose-fitting cap. So oil will, in fact, splurt out the outside. It's not a perfect seal. That's why they have to use a diamond wire cutter to get a nice, clean cut in order to get a nice seal. But, we're just keeping our fingers crossed right now.
Sir, are they talking to you about this? Like, are they coming to people like you to help? Are they calling you?
Well, I'll put it this way. Everybody and their brother now are making suggestions about how to cap that. Well, I get hundreds in my email. However, many of these procedures will, in fact, work, but they work at 200 feet. That's the key. The key to the whole puzzle is what works at 200 feet does not work at 5,000 feet, where we have 2,000 pounds of pressure. Think of putting a car on every square inch of your chest. How long would you last if you put a car on every square inch?
Yeah, around only a few weeks or something.
Oh, Chip.
Yeah, that's the problem. The problem is high pressure. So all these suggestions that I get in my email, a lot of them will, in fact, work at 200 feet.
Well, what's your idea, sir?
Well, let me give you an example. Okay, one person said, why not put tires inside the leak that inflate?
Yes, we saw that.
The pressure
from the inside. Well, at 200 feet it might work, but at 5,000 feet, where the pressure is great, the tires will collapse. How do you inflate a tire when the outside pressure is 2,000 pounds per square inch?
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
But what is your suggestion?
Well, my suggestion is that when the thing happened, Obama should have called out the Navy at that point, the military.
That's what I said.
Instead of putting BP in charge, he should have just removed them, and he should have had a panel of some of the best minds in the petrochemical industry. You know, when Gorbachev was faced with the Chernobyl accident back in 1986, he had a raging fire at a nuclear power plant. You know what Gorbachev did? He didn't set up a committee. He sent in the Red Air Force.
Yeah.
Air Force. It was the Red Air Force that finally stopped that raging fire at Chernobyl.
Oh, some of those poor guys.
That's what Obama should have done. Called in the military, brought in the best minds, and then these procedures at 200 feet, they all work. They've tried seven procedures. They all work at 200 feet. None of them work at 5,000 feet.
How much oil do you think is there? How much oil can you possibly think is just there? Can it just run out?
Possibly enough to last for years. Can you imagine this oil well spill lasting for most of your lifetime? There's enough oil in some of these wells to last a lifetime.
Wow.
So that's why they're panicking, realizing it's going to get into the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to go around the tip of Florida, and it's going to go into the Gulf Stream, and it may even go all the way back to England. So British Petroleum may get some of their oil back in their backyard.
Oh, Chip.
British Petroleum. I forgot that is British.
That's right.
So what do you?
Petroleum
Is that
some of their oil back?
and what is this going to do to the Gulf in the end?
Well, hopefully it won't create dead zones. The worst case scenario, the thing leaks for months and years and creates dead zones where no life can exist in the Gulf. Already they've partitioned about a third of the federal area. It's off limits to fishing, a third of it.
Wow.
So we're talking about large portions of the Gulf becoming a permanent dead zone unless they can cap this thing this week. And, the relief well in August, we have problems there with the relief well. The relief well, by the way, is the gold standard. That's the gold standard for stopping an oil leak. The problem is it never works in the first try. Never.
Really?
Now, winning the lottery. You're drilling a hole that's like 2 miles long, and you want to hit something the size of a dinner plate.
Shit.
At 2 miles.
Wow.
They're not going to do it.
Well, where does this
They have
rank?
to redrill.
Where does this disaster rank on disasters? Is this one of the worst of all times, or?
No. There have been other ones that were actually bigger. However, the economic damage, the property damage, this could rank perhaps number one in terms of the ultimate property damage and lawsuits that it generates. But there have been other oil slicks and oil leaks that were actually bigger, but not in such sensitive areas that are laden with property, with fishing industry.
Yeah, the Gulf is very important to the United States, of course, yes.
Strategically important for the whole country and also, of course, for the whole economy of the South.
Dr. Kaku, our friend Dr. Steve is a big fan of yours, and he wanted me to ask, how long would it take the oil that's in there now, like how long would it take it to dissipate as it is now?
Oh, that's hard to say because we don't even know how much is down there. There's an argument among engineers as to how much oil there is. We've seen plumes of oil 22 miles long. 22 miles long in the Gulf.
Wow.
And so we're kind of clueless as to how much came out. Now, BP uses satellites to calculate how much oil there is. But that only looks at the top. And like I said, the oil's large amounts of it are emulsified, so it doesn't rise to the surface.
All right,
So submarines that have gone down have seen these plumes, one plume 22 miles long, and we now realize it could be five times more oil underwater than we see on satellite photographs.
Unbelievable. How do you clean all this up in the end?
Well, like I said, I would have called out the Navy.
Right.
We have basically the National Guard being called out, and we have volunteers that are working themselves to a frazzle. These are like heroic volunteers working 24/7. I say we should declare war on this thing and dump the military and get all sorts of military expertise.
What would they be able to do that's different, though? I mean, aside having the unlimited resources, what would the Navy be able to do different? That Dr. Steve just texted me. That's what he wanted me to ask you. What would the Navy be able to do differently?
Okay, here's the key.
He's a big
Everyone
fan, this
misses
Dr.
the key.
Steve.
It's a physics lesson. They've tried 7 things at this oil leak, and they failed because we're not at 200 feet. They all work at 200 feet where pressures are not so great. At 5,000 feet, you have complications. You have methane ice crystals forming. You have high pressure that'll blow things in different directions. You have to compensate for it. That requires scientists who understand working at 5,000 feet. But you see, BP has no operating experience at all, zero. In fact, hardly anyone has any operating experience operating at 5,000 feet, capping a raging oil well. That's why we have to bring in people who are experienced. So, these procedures, they will actually work. But the devil is in the details. The details of high pressure. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So eventually, maybe
the same thing.
Why can't they just put something around it, like a big bell, and then just put a new pipe on top and filter it up? That's what I've been saying to any woman who will listen loudly.
Well, that's more or less what they're doing now. That the so-called cap is actually a bell. It's actually a dome they're putting on top of the thing. It's not a perfect seal, and they hope to siphon off as much oil as they can by capping the thing, which means putting a dome around the leak and then siphoning it back up. So they're doing that now. Let's hope it works. But again, I'm not optimistic because they've done it before. It's, deja vu all over again.
Like
Is
a
it,
Yogi Bear.
Is it because
Dr. Chip.
the methane freezes at that hour at that altitude, and that's at the that depth? That's what the problem was. I said hour and altitude first.
Why do we even have this problem? We have this problem again because they're not experienced at working at 5,000 feet. At that depth, methane gas that you find in your kitchen is a solid ice. And because it is so cold, this ice will actually go right up the tube, and as it turns into gas, shoot up like a rocket up the tube, up the pipeline, the riser pipeline.
Can't they just have a split? Can't they have a split pipe? They maybe somehow filter at the bottom, maybe gas up one side and liquid up the other.
No, it's all mixed. It's a mix. You saw the pictures, right? The bubbles in the picture were methane gas, so it's all mixed. You had the mud, you had the oil, you had the gas. It's all mixed together. So in other words, it was methane gas that caused the problem. It's methane gas that gummed up the cap last month. It's methane gas in solid form that could once again gum this procedure up. You have to compensate for all the high atmospheric effects, and that's what they're slow to do.
But how did they get this shit down there, though?
What?
Like, they got it, there's pipes and shit down there. What did they do? How did they build that thing? If no one knows about 5,000 feet things, how is there a 5,000 foot destroyed structure at the bottom of the fucking Gulf?
Building is not the problem. It's all automated. It's done by robots, done by remote control. It's pretty easy drilling these things. They can drill these things, pretty much anywhere. The problem is you have a leaky fire hydrant, a fire hydrant that blows mud, blows caps back to where you started from. This leaky fire hydrant down there is a non-trivial problem. They thought that what works at 200 feet will work at 5,000 feet.
But the pressure there is so much different. It's like having it's like 2,000 feet per square pounds of pressure per square inch per second.
Yes, that's the problem. That is the problem that people have always neglected, and that's why it's killing them. The details are killing them right now. It's like the Three Stooges running around.
That's what they call us.
Like the Three Stooges. Oh, my God.
Yeah, the Three Stooges running around trying to get the oil fixed and stuff.
So evidently, Doctor, you don't know much about the 5,000 feet situation either. No offense. I'm not trying to be, but you don't know anything about it either.
No. You missed the point.
No. I didn't miss the point.
Yes, you did.
200, 5,000. I'm saying.
No. You missed the point. The point is, we have to remove BP from leadership. Make them consultants.
No. We're talking about the issue at hand. We're talking about the impact, not the intent. You talking about cure. We're talking about curing a cold that's in the future. I'm talking about I got a cold right now. The cure for that. Do you know much about 5,000 feet, 2,000 square per inch pressure? Do you personally know how to deal with this kind of stuff? Do you know?
No. What I know is that you have to bring in physicists who understand the mechanics of working at high pressure. This is a physics problem. Mm-hmm. It's not so much an engineering problem anymore. It's a physics problem.
Well, as a physicist, what do you think the solution is?
Like I said, let me read this again. Let me read it again until people understand this.
Wait, just say you don't know.
He's yelling at you.
This is sophistry, sir. You're not saying you don't know. You refuse to go, I don't know. Just say I don't know.
Problem. You have to bring in the top physicists.
I agree.
You're a top physicist.
Analyze what the pressure is like. Otherwise, you run along a headless chicken.
Yep.
That's your question. What do you want to do?
I don't fucking know. I'm just an asshole. You're amazing. I'm saying, your mind is amazing. I'm saying, I'm not indicting you. I'm saying, do you know? Or maybe Hawkins knows or somebody.
Let's be blunt about this. At the present time, nobody knows because we haven't assembled a team of top physicists who will then say this is not an engineering problem anymore. It's a physics problem. We have to work out how to get this thing working at 5,000 feet.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Then, of the 7 procedures that were tried, all of them working at 200 feet. Every single one will work at 200 feet. We had to figure out the best one, which will work at 5,000 feet. It takes study rather than running around like a chicken saying, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me.
So
the top physicists.
Might not have the answer right now. He's saying they need to put together this think tank and figure this problem out with physicists, because it is a kind of a lot of things, a little bit of fluid dynamics, some pressure, temperature, all kinds of fun things that physicists like to talk about. Yes.
Right. And like I said, nobody knows how to deal with it because they haven't assembled this top panel of people who will then take what works at 200 feet and extrapolate all the conditions that are different at 5,000 feet. That's why all 7 procedures failed. And that's why DT is clueless right now. They're making it up as they go along. This is incredible, making it up as they go along.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Kaku. I mean, that's it. Hopefully they'll find some kind of solution for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. When's the big show? Let's get that plug in for everybody again.
Well, Sci-Fi Science is going into second season starting September.
Yep. Very good. We all watch.
The #1 new show on the Science Channel and 12 new episodes.
Oh, good.
Starting in September of this year.
Very excited.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Kaku.
Dr. Kaku, thank you.